Good morning, friends. I don't know how we got the double room for this one, but it's great to see everybody. I guess you love the extremely long title, and that made a lot of you want to come today to be with us. So our hope is a few different things. So I'm going to go through the agenda, but we're glad that you're here. We do not stand in front of you as experts, but just a group of people that love kids. We'll explain titles in a moment and just some things that have worked well for us. So our goal is that you leave this session with some tools that you can take with you, that you can make your own, and even that you can make better and share with us so that we can all do our jobs better together, which I think is a great goal to leave with. And also to tell everybody that the first presentation you went to was the best one ever. Okay. So this is our amazing Northside family. I have the blessing of being the principal at Northside Elementary School. I was a teacher there for 4 years before I became a principal. I've been principal there. This is my 6th year. 19th year in education. You're like, oh my gosh, that boy started teaching when he was 5 years old. Yep. So Mrs. Pascal, our whole team isn't here with us today. Mrs. Pascal is our amazing school counselor. Miss Ingold, our learning support teacher, is not with us today. Mrs. Patterson is our amazing emotional support teacher. She's at one of the sessions now. She won the one of those opportunities to be funded to come here, which is awesome. Mrs. Kiana Walters is an amazing first grade teacher with us, and Mrs. Annie Johnson, a third grade teacher. We teach right down the road, Palmyra Area School District, Northside Elementary School. Small school, two classrooms of each grade level, 1 through 5, about 250 students. It's a great small town community feel. It took us about 10 minutes to get here. We're hoping that they do the conference in like Hawaii or somewhere at another time. So it's some agenda. We're going to start with, before we get to the resources, we just want to share some of our personal beliefs with you. I'm sure a lot of them we share in common. Our role and what we do with Tier 1 and continue to do with Tier 1. We recognized for all 3 tiers for the first time this past school year. Tier 2, how do we identify those needs? What are some resources you can use if you need to work on identifying those needs and what to do with them? What are interventions and supports do we offer? The big one being the check-in, check-out program. And then a Q&A if there's time, which we hope that there is. So some quick reminders about behaviors until I turn it off. And we all agree on these things, at least I hope so. The behavior is a means of communication. It signals a problem to us. I grew up teaching, and when a student was poor in math, we taught them how to do math better. And when a student was poor in reading or needed help with reading, we taught them how to get support in reading. But whenever there was a problem with behavior, we would punish them. And that's a very different approach than what we would do with academics. And so we've seen this huge shift about how do we prevent, how do we create relationships, but also how do we hold students accountable? How do we not just give the punitive, but how do we give them something to take home with them? How do we educate children how to do this better? How do we educate ourselves and adults how to do this better so that we can model it for our kids? So problem solving has to be proactive, not reactive, which is why you're here, right? We're all here because we enjoy being proactive and we want to leave here and go back to our districts or our schools, programs with some resources that we can use to do better. And we believe that all students want to do the right thing. It's just at times they don't have the tools available to be successful. So I'm going to hand it off to one of my amazing colleagues, and we'll get started.
All right, good morning, everyone. We're the Palmyra Cougars, so our acronym is ROAR, which stands for R is respectful, O, openly caring, A, always safe, and R, ready to learn. So this is our foundation of our beliefs at our school. We go over these all the time. It's on the morning announcements every day. My first graders could tell you all of these rules by now. So this is just our big foundation that our school uses for behavior. You can see on this slide, we use behavior as a means of communication or a signal to a problem. So that boy is upset because he doesn't like those olives and it's all over his pizza. So what might he do with that? So our shift in thinking, why do some kids respond so poorly to problems or frustrations? They could be lacking the skills to express their needs, and they have unmet needs or unsolved problems. And when do they exhibit these behaviors? They have difficulty meeting or understanding certain expectations, either in our classroom or anywhere in the school in that unstructured time. So they could have the past experience of trauma or their basic needs unmet. So we like to think of preventative measures. So we want them to try to ask for help or take a break. We're really big into calming corners, so we'll show you that in a little bit. Some of the coping strategies, so when they become frustrated, they know what to do. We're trying to get away from de-escalation or restraint and seclusion. We don't want to get that far. And we definitely don't want the referrals, the office referrals, or detention or suspension. So we try to do as much as we can to be proactive. So some of the things that we do, we have a calming corner in each classroom. We have a little kit. We also have some resources here for you. A virtual calm down kit. So when you see this link, you can click outside of this box and it will stop. And then you can kind of shift around. So you might be able to use this if you have your computer, or the kids might have iPads. This Be Good People, we go over the zones a lot, the red, the yellow, the blue, and the green. And so if you click on this Calming Strategies toolbox up at the top, it brings you some of the different things that you can do. Calm your thoughts, express yourself, just some ways to de-escalate, and some students might enjoy. And then we also have a regular calm down kit, which is, Mrs. Pascal is holding that. So we were going to show them that later though. But that's in every classroom, so every student is accessible to that. Yes?
Could you just say that website one more time? I can't see from back here.
The virtual calm down kit or the Be Good People?
Oh, that one, sorry.
Be Good
Yeah.
People.
And was the virtual also a website, or did you make that?
That was the link.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. Yeah.
If you go back, sorry, I should have led with that. Totally my bad. Opening slide, we do have a bit.ly link at the bottom. So this is how you're going to want to access those resources. So you don't need to ask for those websites and things like that. So I don't know why that got cut off on the right. But down at the bottom is what you want to put in your browser there. And then that's going to show you the entire presentation. You can have access to all the links and everything on there. I'm just going to act like you're taking pictures of us right now. I'll leave that up a few more seconds for you. And the handouts are also on the events page. Thanks so much, Karen.
Okay, so I teach third grade, and I'm going to talk a little bit about what we can do as Tier 1 educators to help support students and behaviors. So just a reminder that we need to understand feelings are the limbic's way of communicating, which is our brain. So a really great analogy is this iceberg. You can see like the behaviors that we see are at the top of the iceberg. So that's what we see. But oftentimes we don't see the things underneath that are causing some of these behaviors, like their biological things that come with them, their emotions, their social standing, their cognitive abilities, and all of these things. So it's just a really important reminder that again, as Mr. A stated in the beginning, these are kind of a signal. When we see behaviors, we need to remember it's a signal that some of their needs aren't being met, and there's often things that we need to kind of dig deeper for. So we want to make sure as educators we can reduce the power struggle, decrease stress responses, and encourage movement to help focus attention too. So in the general education classrooms at our school, we have three main ways that we help support this. One is through the zones of regulation. Two is we use morning meeting. And three, we use the calm down kits, which was already talked about a little bit. So the zones of regulation, this is my 8th year teaching, and I've probably been doing the zones of regulation for 5 in my classroom. They're a system that helps students regulate and understand their behaviors. I think as educators, we could all agree since COVID, we've seen a huge jump in students who need those regulation skills and they just don't have them. And the zones of the regulation are a great way to help students with this. So this can be used with all students. I actually learned about it because when I was student teaching years ago, the emotional support teacher used this, and then I ended up carrying it over into my regular education classroom, which is really great. But the zones of regulation, so there's 4 zones. The green zone is our optimal ready to learn zone, so that means students' brains and bodies are focused, they're content, they're able to do their best learning in this zone. Then we have the blue zone, and that's when our energy levels are really low. So students might be tired, they might be sick, they might just be grouchy that day, they didn't get a good night's sleep. And when they're feeling tired and their energy levels are down, we know they have a hard time paying attention. So when they're in that blue zone, we want to get their energy levels back up so that they can pay attention. And then the yellow zone is the opposite of this. This is when kids have a lot of energy, and we tease all the time that some of our kids live in this zone. They're always in this zone, and that's okay, but we want to teach them to be in a controlled yellow zone where they're controlled over their brains and their bodies. So when they're in this zone, we want to teach them strategies to get their energy level back down. So again, they can do their best learning and focus and pay attention and not distract others. And then we have the red zone, and the red zone is the out of control zone. So this would be like anger, severe disrespect, maybe someone's like throwing desks, things like that. And we always teach our students that like we shouldn't really be in the red zone in school. That would be an unexpected zone to be in. If you do have a student in the red zone, they might need some additional supports, like our emotional support teacher may need to step in and help with that. So those are the 4 main zones that we teach students. And in the beginning of the year, what we do is there's a PowerPoint linked here, and this is just a Prezi. We didn't make this, but we found it one year, and we've been using it ever since. So it kind of just goes through the different zones with, like, what are the zones of regulation? It kind of gives great analogies of why we need to regulate ourselves, like when your body is hot, what do? Oh, you take off your sweatshirt. So when your body is cold, what might you do? You put on a sweatshirt, and we can do the same things with our emotions. So this is really a great resource that we use at the beginning of the year just to go through the zones and let students know what they are. And then what we do is we practice identifying the different zones. So there are lots of resources, but we really like some of these like scenario resources. So we might show students pictures or even show students faces so they can recognize like what emotion would match that face or that scenario. There's a lot of great books out there. Really any picture book you could link to the zones of regulation. So those are really great in the beginning of the year to use. This is just another resource. I think I wanted to show. There's like a really great, I thought there was a book one in here. Oh, the book note here, sorry. So this is great. It goes through like a bunch of picture books, and it shows you what zone you could link to it. And I really like this a lot. But like I said, really any picture book you could tie to the zones. So that's a resource that's linked in there as well. And then what we do is each student gets an individual zone chart. Sorry, I want to like go point, but I know I have to stay here. So it's a zone chart with, thank you, with the 4 different colors. It's on the right. Yep, that one. So each student gets one of those. We, on the back, then brainstorm different ideas of what students can do when they're in a certain zone. So if they're in the blue zone, how can you get your energy back up? Well, maybe I'll walk and get a drink, or maybe I'll take a walk down the hall. When you're in the yellow zone, how can you get your energy back down? So that might be a good time to use the Calm Down Kit. And we also teach children that like not every strategy is going to work for everybody the same, and that's okay. So it's kind of a learning process as the year goes on. They kind of understand what works best for them and what doesn't work for them too. So they have one of those at their desks, and when we see that a student is maybe in the yellow zone, I might say, hey, can tell you're feeling really yellow right now. take your zones chart out and flip it to the back, and what's a strategy that you can use to then get yourself back to green, so we're in optimal learning zone. And then to continue with that too, we also do a daily check-in. So in the morning, students in my class, they move a sticky note to what color zone they are for the day. And that's just a really great thing. If I see a kid who is coming in the blue zone, they're not normally in the blue zone, I can kind of check in with them, see what's going on for the day. If it's something I need to like grab the counselor for or anything like that, it's a good time I can do that. And then at the end of the day, they also fill out a regulation chart, and that's what the middle is with numbers 1 to 31. So every month they get a new chart. So the numbers are the dates for the month, and then they're reflecting on their day and seeing what zone they were in throughout the day. So you can see, like, one of my students, they had some green days, which is great, and then they had some days which were blue, yellow, a little bit of both. And we love that they reflect on that, so they're really like taking like responsibility for those emotions. We also make sure to teach them, like, it's not a bad thing if you're in the blue zone or the yellow zone, but it's how you react to that and what you do with that. So all your emotions are okay. It's valid if you're feeling this way, but we need to make sure that we're still doing our best learning and not distracting others. So we were gonna do like a little four corners game, but we realized that the room setup's not really optimal for moving. So we're just gonna read a few, are we okay with time? Okay, we're just gonna read a few scenarios, and these are actually all scenarios that actually have happened in real life. So some of you may be able to relate, but thinking about like the zones that we just talked about, blue would be like low energy, yellow would be high energy, red would be that angry zone, and then green would be ready to learn. We're just gonna have you like point to what zone you think the student might be in. So, oh yeah, sorry. Red is in the corner, we have green, blue, and then yellow. So we have, it says, a student comes in from recess off the walls. He is upset over another student who didn't follow the rules of Foursquare and will not let it go. He starts slamming his desk and kicking objects. What zone are they in? Another resource that you could use. So another thing that our teachers do for Tier 1 students is morning meeting, and morning meeting is by far my favorite part of the day, and I think that if you were to talk to many of our students, they would say the same. So I'm going to start with just showing you a video. This video was created at the end of last year, so this was my previous year's class about morning meeting and the different parts. Cool.
My favorite part about morning meeting is the share, where everybody gets to say what they think about the share. Usually have quotes that we do, and we usually have a share that we, like, it kind of helps us get to know each other.
My favorite part of morning meeting is probably like the share. So like we put thing up, and then we like answer. Like sometimes it's like would you rather's, and like sometimes we have to spot the differences. And I like that the most.
I think morning meeting is important because you can learn about your classmates. It is important because all of our class comes together and talks about what we're going to do, and sometimes we have some fun activities. Morning meeting is important because it helps you get your day started and talking with your classmates.
Because you get to like recap what the day is gonna be, and like we do a word of wisdom to like, which is like a positive sentence. And I think that's good for your brain and your mind because it's like that, because it's like a lesson in how you should be, what that is.
I think it's important because sometimes we have questions on the board and other people have to answer. So if you hear everybody's other answer, like you can like hear them, and some answers are going to be different and more unique than others, but that gives you more of like, so you can think about it and like maybe you can like kind of like agree with that person.
So those were just some student thoughts about morning meeting. And real quickly before I forget, with the zones of regulation, the website that Kiana shared earlier, the Be Good People, is really great. Sorry, I'm gonna see if I can go back for a second. Is the Be Good People website up? Do you know still? Okay, yeah. You can sort the calming by the different zones. So if you have a student who's in the blue zone, you can click on that, and then it comes up with all different strategies they could use. And same for the other zones. There's also really great resources on here that teach lessons, and it's completely free. So you can see there's like tier 1 resources, 2 and 3. And there's some great lessons that go with it. Sorry. Educators. I think it is the, trying to find the lessons. There is lessons on here. And one of my colleague, what she did last year, I know, at the end of the year, was she would do like a Feels Friday. She would take the lessons that are on here and she would kind of go through one a week in morning meeting. So I think that was a really great way to use that as well. But back to morning meeting. So yes, we start our day every day with morning meeting. We are fortunate enough to have time to do it in the morning, but I know that there's teachers in our school who don't have that time, so they might do an afternoon meeting or the end of the day meeting. And I don't really think it matters the time you do it, it's just making the time to do it throughout the day. So we like to incorporate the social emotional learning piece into morning meeting. There's a lot of teachable moments, so we'll use that time to, if there's a problem as a class, we'll use that time to talk about it and almost have like a restorative circle with our class and really talk about the problem, how we can fix it, and moving forward the expectations. That focus of the month or even of the week, you can pull in some of those social emotional learning skills. And then we also create leadership opportunities. So like one of the coupons that our students can earn would be like lead morning meeting, and kids really like to do that, and it promotes leadership in the classroom. So that's really great. This is the slide that I use. There's lots of morning meeting slides out there on TPT or wherever you find your resources, but we stuck with 3 parts of morning meeting. So the first part is the greet. At the beginning of the year, we use really basic greets, and we sit there, we go around the circle, we use eye contact, we use the person's name, and we greet each other, and it probably takes 10 minutes every day. But some of these kids are coming into 3rd grade and not knowing how to greet each other. So we take the time to do it so that they do know how to do it. And throughout the year, then, we can add different types of greets. So we've done sign language greets, we've done different language greets, we've done compliment greets, just adding different types of greets. And then as the year progresses, we don't sit and greet each other every day. I'll just say, like, greet 3 friends before you come to the circle, so that it's a little bit quicker as the school year progresses. The next part of our morning meeting is our share or our check-in. So you can see on the slide it says daily check-in. Sometimes these are like fun, like how do you feel today? Sometimes they're like would you rather questions. They're just different check-ins that you can use to build community. I don't typically let everybody share because we would be there all day, but we pick on a few students, and it really promotes, again, that classroom community. And then the last part is the quote. And we use the book called Wonders Words of Wisdom for the quote. You can get that on Amazon. But it's great because there is a quote for every single day of the year. Some of the quotes are way over their heads, so we just skip that quote and we pick a different quote. But it is really great that students are finding some of these lessons, and they're things that they can apply in their lives. And we talk about, like, how can you use this today? What can you do? What can you do around the school and apply this in your life? And it also, like, touches back then to reading when we're talking about morals and life lessons and themes and things like that. So those are the 3 parts of morning meeting that we do every day. I know that some people do it differently, and again, I think it's whatever works for you in your classroom, but it really does help build community, and it's a great way to incorporate those SEL moments into your classroom.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Pascal. I'm the school counselor at Northside, and we're going to talk about what can we do for Tier 2. And before we talk about interventions, we're going to talk about how do we identify needs. So at Northside, we have two tools that we use to identify needs. The first one, we have what's called a Kid of Concern team. And the team members are myself, our principal, our school psychologist, our school nurse, and our district social worker. We meet weekly to look at the needs and interventions for the students. And how we identify students for the Kid of Concern team is mainly through the classroom teacher or the reading specialist. They complete a Google form, which I can show you. Here. And then you'll see it has the student's name, anybody that they come in contact with, the reason for the referral, and we just go through a list of different things, their strengths, the concerns, what accommodations that they've already used in the classroom, and any other important information that the team would need to know. The team does meet, as I said, weekly. We look at the progress, we assign interventions at that time, and we are fortunate that our building is only 250 students, so we really feel that we get a good opportunity to know the students and their needs. The other way that we, let me just mention too, the SAP team. We do have an elementary SAP liaison, and she comes once a month as well and meets with our Kid of Concern team. We also use the SRSS screener, which stands for the Student Risk Screening Scale. We use the scale that looks at both internalizing and externalizing behaviors, and I can show you that as well. So we give this to teachers. I think it's technically recommended like 3 times a year. I can say we don't always do 3 times a year. We definitely give it in October. We just gave it to the teachers. All their students' names are listed, and they just real quickly fill out the screening form. It should only take them 15-20 minutes probably. And then we look at what students' needs are high, and then that's how we determine what students are going to need Tier 2 interventions. So what supports do we do at Northside for Tier 2? We do small group instructional groups. These are usually no more than 4 students, and again, we have a small school, so no more than 4 students. They're solution focused, they're quick, they're maybe 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 week programs. They are student specific based on their needs. I'm gonna flip forward for a minute. Some of the different topics that I might, and it's usually myself that does the small groups, some of the different topics that I may teach, I listed there. So we might look at executive functioning, we might look at anxiety, emotional regulation. Some of the resources that I used, I put up there, and I brought for you. You're welcome to come look at those. I also do zones of regulation for small groups as well. And how we determine if those groups are effective, I usually do a pre and a post test, a pre-test before, then a post test on whatever skill I'm hoping to teach them and achieve. And sometimes we track their check-in, check-out data, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. So that would be another intervention that we have in Tier 2. So we have small groups and our check-in, check-out.
Thanks, Jen. All right, so we're going to close out with looking at all these resources, especially the one for Tier 2 check-in, check-out. So like Jen said, we go through all the Tier 1 routine for our students across the building and for our staff. They're going through those monthly lessons. We launch a new video. We create a video every month with a focus. for students that we're going to focus on. Like one of them this past school year has been making eye contact and saying hello, just with things that we see that are needs in the building. So we go through all those tier 1 things, we celebrate the positive behavior, and then we realize we go through the SRSS survey and we still identify some students that have more needs. And so what do we do with them? Based on the needs and knowing our kids, we have found that check and check out is one of the greatest resources we can use to intervene with behaviors. So if you're in this slide, when you click on this check and check out roadmap sign, you all have access to this. This is where you're going to see the masters of everything we talked about today. So the SRSS template is in there. The directions for check and check out are there, so I'll be able to go through those with you. And then the data tracking templates. Kids of concern meeting stuff is there. Mrs. P showed that. There's also a description if you want to steal that description and share with your staff. Like, hey, we're going to use this new form for KOC. Here is how you fill out the KOC form. Just copy, paste, and send it. Hopefully it saves you some time. And then student charts we're going to go through in a second. Before we do that, I just wanted to give you a brief overview. If you don't know much about check in, check out, we were told we're to act like we're presenting to people that have never heard of this before, and even some families, I think, that are with us today and throughout the next few days. So we're so glad that you're here. This is my favorite video. It's super short about check in, check out, and what it looks like in practice.
That's another check-in and check-out of somebody who had the perfect day, so we put it on the wall of fame. You gonna be the next one? Because we do check-in and check-out, students feel supported through a positive relationship every single day, which builds their capacity to be successful students.
I know you can do it. Okay.
At Fall Hamilton, we've really put a lot of effort in building positive relationships.
Hi. How was your day?
One strategy we utilize is our check-in and check-out system, where adults are meeting with kids every single day, and it's not their classroom teacher. We have 41 students on check-in and check-out here. You're gonna do great, aren't you? And we identify the students that just need a little bit more support, where they're struggling meeting some of their requirements on an educational level, but more of a social and emotional level as well.
You good? I'm so proud of you.
The child knows every day they come in this building that somebody's excited to see them in the morning and excited to see them right before they leave.
Hey, Mariah.
Hi.
You ready to have another great day today?
Yep.
My check-in, check-out buddy, her name is Mariah, and she's in 4th grade. She has 3 goals every day that she works on. What are your goals for today?
Listen, feel, and pass, and nice.
Awesome. She can get 0, 1, or 2 points for each of her goals.
The goal sheet is based off the student's needs, and it is agreed upon by the classroom teacher and the student. So whatever they're struggling with is what the goal is set around. Then every increment of the day, at the end of their literacy block, at the end of their mathematics block, at the end of recess, they're just getting feedback.
Whoever the teacher is will give her points throughout the day. If she had a bad day, I try to just let her know that she still has the capability to do great tomorrow. But today was a really great day. You had a perfect day? She got a perfect score on her goals for the day.
What I like about check-in and check-out that you get prizes and you get to see what you did good and what you did wrong, and you can do better next time.
We try to pick things that the kids like, school supplies, or non-tangible things like a positive phone call home to the parent congratulating them. It is a great day for Mariah, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just about the points. The relationship and the accountability is really the important part.
Good. Actually, it was fantastic.
Fantastic.
Mr. Portel, he's our principal and my mentor. You go to him and then he asks about your day, and if you had a problem somewhere, we'll talk about that and see how you can fix it.
We've seen kids transforming their own opinions of themselves. Peyton, man, he had a rough year last year. Just to see his growth on a foundational level of being able to be in a class all day without incident and being able to start growing on his academics. So, do you think you knocked it out of the park? That's what I'm talking about. That's been a huge success.
You did it with me.
That's right, no, you did it on your own. That's you, my man. Nice work.
So what is check-in, check-out really? It's a more formal way of creating great relationships with your kids, and it's a research-based mentor program. I've done research on it. I feel very strongly that it does work. I would say our team agrees with me. If you have the opportunity to do something like this in your school, I know our local IU had, at the time, Anita Heller came and trained our staff. We have a small staff, but our first year we had 19 or 20 staff members willing to give this a shot. And since then, it's become a very normal and welcomed part of our school day. I myself am mentor to 2 students right now, and I know the ladies standing up beside me feel the same way. It's just as good for us too to make those relationships and attract things with kids. We do this all the time naturally, but it's these kids that need just that little more boost. May not have that support at home, and I'm going to walk you through what that looks like. So some resources. There's a link here for directions on what is check-in, check-out. Again, I would suggest if you want to implement this in your building, get in contact with your IU so that they can get a representative out to train you on what that looks like and to gain some traction. I would not give this to somebody or a staff member and tell them that they have to do it. It's not going to go well. You have to gain some traction for the staff members that want to do it. We even have janitors in our building that are mentors to our students, and it's wonderful. You know, we show kids, I don't care who you're talking to, whether it's a custodian, whether it's Mrs. Pascal, if it's a student teacher, we're treating everybody with respect, we're using eye contact, and I'm going to stick up for you just like I stick up for my staff. So it's a great way to model those positive expectations and communication. Student charts and data tracking I'm going to go over and show you right now. So the directions are here, so you don't have to write down a bunch of stuff that I'm saying. So we have a student, like Mrs. Pascal said, they come through on the KOC form, or maybe on the SRSS survey, or probably both. These are kids you probably know that need this kind of thing. How can somebody use, or what students can benefit from a great relationship and connecting with somebody multiple times per day? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to identify the student, and then we're going to identify what their needs are. As Mrs. Walter stated, our ROAR rules, respectful, open and caring, always safe and ready to learn. We want to make sure that whatever goals our students are working on are 2 things. They're worded positively, and number 2, they are related to one of those 4 ROAR rules, so we're always going back to those. And we always say, and everybody always has those acronyms or whatever we're using, we always tell our kids, they apply first to us as adults, but they also apply to real life. We don't want our kids just following these rules when they're in the building. We want them to follow them when they're outside. We want every family that comes in contact with one of our students at the grocery store or at the mall, if that's still a thing, going to the mall, to know like, hey, where'd you come from? You're very respectful. I know you should make eye contact with them when you're talking, and so on and so forth. So we live by this as well. So some examples in here for you. We have an intermediate one. So this is one we might see in Mrs. Walter's class. It's split up into 6 categories. And it's by day, and you'll notice there's our respectful goal, uses appropriate language and actions, and there's a ready to learn goal. So following directions with no more than 2 more prompts. So you might have a student that this chart might apply to. So primary grades are using more of the smileys and circling every day. You notice we created a points earned and percentage down there. It is in the instructions. We go for a start of 80%. If you need to start lower to gain some traction and some accountability, some gumption for those students to feel that success, rock and roll and do whatever you see fit. But did I meet my goal? Yes or no, or try again tomorrow. And then there's a key there. So if we go back, you also see that there's an intermediate one, and we've also split this up. I'm going to go now to primary first. We have found times where we learn and we grow, right? We have found that there are times when we would like to check in an additional time with students, so we created masters for an AM and PM as well. So we broke that up. We're going to share that with you as well. So a lot of times Mrs. Walters might have a student that I'm mentoring, and we check in, and we might need to do a bonus check-in at recess time or at lunch recess, just to get regulated, go through some of the resources Mrs. Johnson shared and Mrs. Pascal shared, and kind of regroup, coach them up for the afternoon. And so they're linked to things down there. You notice we sometimes put in the reward choices, which we want students to help us with. We want those rewards to also be experiential in large part, so that we can always make sure that we're continuing to do stuff with them. I've seen these teachers to my left and right do things with the students every week. I think with one of mine we have 4 spare on Friday if they meet their goal 5 days in a row. So you can play with it, make it your own, make it something that's going to drive the students to be successful and want to do the right thing. So those are the charts. I'm sorry, I forgot to show you. Intermediate, really no big changes other than the smileys turn to the 2, 1, and 0. Again, you'll see there's the 80% there. So this one's out of 24 points. Can you make these categories smaller? Yes, you can. You can decrease. Can you increase the categories? Yes, you can. There's also an AM, PM in there for you for intermediate. So it doesn't matter. That's not only primary. I see AM, PM just as much for intermediate students. So then we have the student chart. So whenever we go through this, they'll say, hey, Mr. A, can you make us a chart for check and check out for a student? I will make 2 things. I'll make one of these for the students. We will print those out, the ones I just showed you. We'll make them in this beautifully crafted, yes, there it is, thanks, Hannah. Clipboard for them to carry around with them. We usually print out 5 of those in a day. They will take that sheet home. At the end of the day, family maybe will sign off on it, maybe they won't, but I'll show you how to track it after that. So we make that, we put it in a folder for the team to share, but then we also make these for us. And these are the goal templates. This is probably what we're most proud of. So Mrs. Johnson's showing you an example of a check-in, check-out point sheet. Let's say it's for me. There's my 2 goals, and that's not an AM, PM because it's not 2-sided, and there are 6 categories. So I'm going to go in here, and we have pretty much every combination here for you. But I would go into the check-in, check-out template for 2. These are editable. Make copies of these, use them, share them, steal them. Okay? So in this case, I write the student name, myself. You're going to notice over here the goal met is down on the side. There's a summary. When you go to week 1, this is the cool part, it can put your name in there for you. I can also double click and say, you know what, I'm going to coach the kid up. There's resources in there about how do you, number 1, communicate to families that you're going to start this intervention. I have those letters already created. They're in there for you to steal. Number 2, how do you communicate to the student what you're about to do so that they can get on board and get excited for what's coming. So let's say you want to start this on Monday, November 6th. And Mrs. Johnson is my mentor, I'm her mentee. Down here are the goal templates, because this is a 2 goal templates. So the first one was respectful, and Mrs. Johnson, what was that one? What was that respectful goal?
Use kind words.
Okay, I'm going to put use kind words. And then if you change, I'm just showing you this because whenever you change one of the goals in respectful there, like use kind words, for the next every week, it's already changed there for you. Okay, you don't have to do that every week. See, use kind words is all throughout there. So I would go in, the mentor would go in, they would rename this to week 1, they'd enter the dates. So I would say 11/6 to 11/11. And then I would go throughout my day, I carry that clipboard with me. The kids, I mean, let's be honest, kids go everywhere. It's like Grand Central Station in schools now. Kids are leaving all the time. I can tell you that I've never had a student that wonders what that is. I've never had a student that's embarrassed by taking that with them. Kids have that kind of stuff all the time. In fact, I think more kids want to do it because they see the results from it. So at the end of the day, I check in with Mrs. Johnson in the morning. She coaches me up like you saw in the video. I go throughout my day. I can self-assess. Most of the time we do give it to the teacher to assess. Then I take my clipboard over to Mrs. Johnson at the end of the day, and we look at that data together. She either tells me, you did a great job, awesome, here's something we're working towards, or here's a goal, or we need to try again tomorrow. So this is where she would input, let's say I had a stellar job. There's a pull-down menu on each one. So let's say in using kind words, I was pretty good on that, I was on point. You can click and drag so you don't have to go through. Get on there. Categories here, I'm sorry I forgot to say this, would be like that's where you put in your math, say science. Just to show you again, it does carry over. See the math and science there. But let's say in using positive self-talk, I kind of stink at that. So let's say I had some 1s. I did really bad in whatever subject that is, and then by the end of the day I turn it around. This is going to go, if you go down to the grade, it's going to change your percentage for you. So it shows you, and this is where you can track data, right? So this is where if you want to have a conversation, look at goal 1. It's going to show where I'm trending. It's going to do that for every day of the week. Notice I had that 81% that I changed. But if it's 1 point, that's the difference for us. 80% I made it, less than 80% I did not. When you go through this, let's say Tuesday there's no school. If you check this box, it's going to take that out of the data for you, so you don't have to worry about that being not working appropriately. Then when you go back to the summary, take a look what's done for you. It's going to show you at the end of the week, did your student meet the goals assigned to them at 80% or higher? That's going to change from a no or to a yes. Or this is where Mrs. Johnson might say, Brett needs some more practice with positive self-talk. Now, how does this usually work? We will go through about 8 weeks. You'll notice on these there are 8 weeks. At 8 weeks, we kind of take a turn. Research would tell you that at 8 weeks, you need to start to taper off. Have we had students that we keep on this a long time? Yes, because we've tried to take them off it, and it's not working so well anymore. There are students, however, the research would say to try at 8 weeks to do a hybrid approach. Week 9, you want to do the chart and the check-ins only and decrease incentives. Week 10 is where you want to still coach up and meet. So I meet with Mrs. J without the chart. So it's a slow progression out, if that makes sense. You can extend this as long as you want to, but those are the goal templates. There's 1, 2, 3 goals. I've never used a 3 or a 4 goal template. I would suggest not using that. That's a little bit overwhelming. And then for the AM PM, just to show you, if I was a student that needed an AM PM, everything looks the same except you'll notice here there's an AM and a PM to put those points in. Everything's the same. The data will chart the same. And the overall percent for the week will be the same too. So the data tracking templates are what I showed you right there. Kids are concerned, the resources there that I showed you, and the student charts are what they would put in the clipboard for our check-in, check-out process. Just really briefly over the directions, this is going to show you just how to make a copy, and if you would need to explain this to anybody, that's what it's there for. So our hope was always to make sure we're creating these things that we're proud of, that it's working, which it is, and then how do we go about making sure we're able to mass produce them for us all to be more successful together. Yes.
What did your staff create that?
Yeah, myself and Mr. Short, our tech person, he's not with the district anymore. But yeah, I give him super credit. He's the man. We still send him our monthly videos. So we do like tally free. If you're tally free for the month, like I'll create a video. I still send him those videos. I did one yesterday. He'll make those into videos and then I send those out to families saying, hey, your kid was tally free. Congratulations, make a fool of myself. All that stuff that you do in elementary school. But yes, we did create those. Yeah, 3 years ago. Yeah, we started right before COVID, just like everything else great, and then COVID happened. But at that time, we had started, it was cool. We started as a whole school. We started the whole program together. So we had, I think, 19 mentors mentoring 19 students. And we went through each week together. We even made the incentives and the prizes the same, standardized it. Since then, we've learned that we like the ability for students to enter and exit in flux. Like we want it to be smooth sailing. So we averaged, since that last 3 years, it has to be close to 55 to 60 students that have successfully gone through this program. Yes?
I just wanted to know, does each mentor teacher input the data into the data tracking sheet, or do you have one data person who collects the sheets and inputs it?
The question was, does the mentor the one that inputs the data, or is that just one person that we coin as the data inputter? The answer to that question would be that the mentor would be the one inputting that data. We feel that way for 2 reasons. Number one, they're going to check out with them anyways, and that student needs to take home their sheet with them to their family to show them how they did. This program is much more successful if you get the family on board as well. I always ask the family to match incentives, celebrations, and consequences at home based on what they bring home. So the teacher's going to, or the mentor's going to need to do that because they're going to take that home with them. And at the end of the day, we all know what that's like. It's helter-skelter.
Just something to add to that, I'm a mentor right now. So when I do check out with my student, I input the data right away. So I don't have to go back to it later. The only time, if the end of the day is crazy, then I just take a picture of his chart and then I input it later. But I do it with him and it doesn't take very long at all. And I learned something new. I didn't realize you could drag the twos across. So thanks, Brett.
You're welcome, Deanna.
What's the
Yes, ma'am.
process of getting mentors?
The process of getting mentors, that's a great one. Again, I would say to start with your IU representative to give a good overview of what it's like. And then after that, we just gave a really broad invitation. I think that's always going to come from leadership first and kind of showing their heart. And it all comes down to staff too. This is the kind of program that you want to appeal to the type of staff person, which I hope is everybody, but it really wants to hone in on and dig their roots deep with a student or two. So that's how it was pretty much just the IU, then we had our own little training as a building. Was it completely smooth in the transition? No. Some teachers saw it and they thought it was some more work, which again, I totally get. as an administrator, because I live that too. But I don't want to ever pitch something to my staff that I wouldn't do myself. And so once it gains some traction through that first year, again, it's become something that it seems to be a very normal part of our school day and a very welcome part of the school day. So IU, small training, appeal to the hearts of your staff. And show that video. Yeah, I don't think I'm crying maybe. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any experience where their point sheet has set off a student, so if they were getting zeros and ones, and then that just set them off? How do you respond to that?
Question was, have you ever had a situation where the points set off a student in a negative way? No, it's been perfect every time. Next question. No, I'm kidding. Yes, we have. So that was, and PBIS, I know we're big on that. Like, it's not taking away minutes, it's minutes earned. So we will sometimes add a little caveat to the chart with, well, first of all, we would always change that to AM and PM so we can check in with them again. That might also be a student that's also meeting in a small group with Mrs. Pascal to work on that regulation piece to make sure they're getting that education. But we might tailor the point value or the point band to how much time they would get that education during recess sometimes. So if we have a student that's on an AM PM chart and they're not doing too well in the morning, and it's my buddy and I need to regroup with him before recess because he met a point range that was super low for the morning, like 40%. We're going to have that education and regroup during that first part of recess so he knows, look, you have skin in the game, I have skin in the game, I'm not on duty with you right now, I want to be playing soccer with you. And so that's going to be an extra opportunity for us to touch base. At that point, have we had situations where we need to change goals? Yes. We just did it with a 5th grade student last week. Sometimes it's a goal change that needs made. Sometimes it's an AM/PM that needs a non-AM/PM that needs adjusted to an AM/PM. Thanks, Kiana. And does that answer your question a little bit?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Can you review the week 8, week 9, like what you do on those weeks?
Yes, I'll put that research in there for you. I think I'm saying it correctly. Week 8, you go through week 8 as normal. Start maybe having those conversations that you're going to start to taper off the plan. Week 9 would be you are continuing to use the chart, but you're decreasing the amount of, am I right on that, Mrs. P? You're decreasing the amount of check-ins, okay? So whenever you use the chart, you say, hey, we're going to start doing this. We're going to start, what does it look like to start tracking and then talking in the morning or in the afternoon? Next week, we're going to take away this chart from you and see how it goes. Then the next week, you still check in, you check out, no chart. You still review the goals, have the student to be the one to tell you what the goals are. And then after that week 10, that's when you might want to regroup with the team, with the family, let them know, hey, please help us out. We're going to taper off on this next week and see how it goes. Probably 50% of the time we get to go on it or extend it for a few weeks. Sometimes we just really love to do it. We don't even, we just keep doing it. Yes?
Logistically, if you have general ed teachers or special teachers as mentors, how do they find the time to do this with the classroom full of students?
Got it. Yeah, please.
I'll answer that. So the students come down. Oh, sorry. So what would you do? Oh, what do they do? How do you find time to do this? So my student comes down. He's actually a 3rd grader, and he's a previous student of mine. But he comes down right as the kids are coming in. And so I check in with him then. I literally just give him his chart. It's real quick. We review goals. Let's have a great day. I'll see you at lunch maybe. If not, I'll see you at the end of the day. And I tell him I want to see a lot of 2s on his chart, a lot of happy faces. And then at the end of the day, like I said, it's really quick. He comes back down. Now I'm lucky because my related arts is always at the end of the day. So he comes in and I don't have any students at that time. But I know some of the teachers that do have students, it's usually like if they're a late busser, they can easily work it out that, you know, the bell's ringing and they can still come down, that sort of thing. But we usually it's like a case by case depending on what your situation is at your school.
We also have substitute mentors. If you're not going to be around or if you have a meeting in the morning that they can take care of it. Like my Mrs. Lookbill works in our main office. My secretary is amazing with children and knows, you know, like this morning, the 2 clip charts were out on her desk because she knows I'm going to be here instead, so they get the day started off well. Yes, ma'am.
Same question for students if they're, I don't know how much freezing and coming late is an issue at your school, but
but when that happens, is the expectation that there's still a check-in, and is it with the same person, or would it be like with the front desk and
Yeah,
stuff on it?
great question. She said, what if there's a truant student or habitually truant to school? Are there still expectations for them to check in? Absolutely. We hope that it's with the general mentor, but sometimes that mentor might be teaching a class, so yes, in that case we would use a substitute. But I would say also one of the great things is we've used the check-in, check-out specifically for students struggling with truancy, just as a one-goal one, and we just made one this week for that. So that's a great one to use to also have a really good mentor substitute, not just somebody we do have a list of like 8 or 10, but really we all kind of have our one person that can be the substitute, and the student learns that very, very quickly. Yes?
So, do you have any tips or tricks on if a student keeps forgetting to come, or, kind of refuses, or maybe goes into the certain zones instead of like going to the check-in and check-out?
Sure, we have a lot of our mentors. I'm sorry, the question was, do you have any suggestions for when students are trying to skirt you at the end of the day when they know they had a bad day? Or if they just get upset and they're in one of those other zones. We usually, as mentors, if we're able to, I will seek out, like Mrs. Pascal and I have the luxury of seeking out our mentees to find them. Otherwise, we're in great communication. One of my mentees is a 4th grade student. He has tried to skirt me this year already. So we set up the time where if I come down to him if he's had a bad day, or if he's trying to be a little squirrel and hide his chart, which happens. I'll make sure that I'm in good communication with the teacher. The teacher knows to send it down, calls me on the phone, sending it down. I'll be in the hallway, watching him come the whole way, and we'll have a good conversation. Yeah. Outsmart. Yes?
Do you assign mentee mentors, or do you let them choose?
We assign, but as a team, as a whole elementary team, we match based on personality and who has the best ability to make the biggest impact on a kid's life. Sorry, the question was how do we match mentees to mentors? I apologize. Yes, ma'am.
We're trying to incorporate something like this at secondary level, high school using our home monitors. I guess my question is, do you suggest assigning one person for 9 weeks straight, or would you suggest kind of a couple of different people with their hands in their pockets?
Question was, would you assign one mentor for the whole program, 8 to 10 weeks and beyond, or multiple people to be mentors? From the research that I've read and done on this, in my experience, I would love to be able to use those people that aren't in the building every day, but we do not. My suggestion would be to use somebody that's going to be a consistent presence in that student's life for the 8 to 10 plus weeks. We've tried to do that a couple times the first year with a custodian shared with a related arts teacher. It was effective, it worked, but it wasn't nearly as effective as it could have been. I wish we could use, we're the smallest building, so we get the sloppy seconds of the schedule. So we have a lot of related arts teachers that are only with us for even less than half of a day at a time. To think of one student that we want to impact that needs something like this with 3 or more staff members is not going to get us the consistency that we need. We'll be up here if you have any questions. We're getting the time. Q&A is right there. My email address is right there. It's a great team on my left. Thank you guys so much for coming this morning.